This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order, and that code can be used over and over, so you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
I saw somebody said about Flacco could have played in the first half of the Bengals game. Kenny said something about they missed time. They're either rusty or ready, and they looked rusty. My issue here was it was a close game till the third quarter. Yeah. If we would have came out and got boat race from the get-go, like maybe, but you just couldn't take that chance. If we come out and we play Joe Flacco for a half in the Bengals game and he gets blindside sacked because Leroy Watson's playing left tackle and pops his shoulder and we got to come into this game with either Driscoll or P.J. Walker, you would have never heard the end of it.
Nope. Lose their minds.
Yep. So
I was arguing with somebody about this very thing last night, and I said, taking week 18 off doesn't matter.
Correct.
This is professional football. These guys are at the highest level of the sport. They're the best athletes in the world at this game.
Coming off a bye is supposed to be 16 is good. Like, you don't want to play a team coming off their bye.
Exactly. Right. You got an extra week to heal up, prepare, rest, get ready to go, and that's how you came out. That's a team problem right there. Now, we love this team. Not saying anything. We've been high on this team all season, as we should have been. They were awesome. But for this game, they were not up for it. You could just tell from the beginning the Texans were up for it, and we were not.
I agree with that. So the crazy thing to me is until like the back-to-back pick sixes, I didn't even think the offense looked bad. Like, I thought we were...
No, that game flipped
Flacco
in 5
was
plays.
Almost perfect.
Yeah. What, three incompletions or 4 incompletions?
2, I thought. Wasn't it 2 or 3?
I mean...
Up until that point. I was saying that if we go get 7 here...
we're in it.
It's a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Myles was kind of a little bit of a no-show yesterday, and obviously we think Myles is great. I think he has a good chance to potentially be Defensive Player of the Year. But, man, he fell off a ton again.
So we were talking about that again, too. I posted this on socials because I went back and I was like, okay, I know he's only had like 1 sack in the past however long, but I really wanted to verify. Well, it was 6 games, 7 weeks, because he didn't play in the Bengals game.
Yeah.
So the first 10 games of the season, he had 13 sacks. Then he goes into Denver, feels the pop in his shoulder, comes out in a sling. We're all thinking he's probably done for the year now. Ever since that game, only 1 sack over the next 6. So you go from 13 sacks in the first 10 to just 1 over your next 6 after an injury. I know, guys, it sucks that he does this disappearing thing. We talk about it every offseason. There's always that thing every year for Myles Garrett. Right. And this year it was the shoulder. I mean, he just dropped off after that. But I do think the injury had a lot to play in it.
I said it a couple weeks ago. I thought he had limited range of motion.
Strength
and that kind of stuff in the shoulder. And I definitely, like, I wouldn't be shocked to find out if he has surgery or something in the offseason on it.
Oh, I'm expecting it.
Yeah. But we said it before the season, Myles has got to find a way to put an entire season together. And here we are going into another offseason again. And I think when healthy and fresh, he's the most dominant player in football. Yep. But, God, we need him for a full season. He can't. It's like there's always that one thing, like you said, and it's frustrating because we all know how good Myles is. And he gutted it out. He played through injury. He helped rally the troops. I didn't love his answer post-game.
What did he say? I didn't listen.
He said we got outcoached, outplayed. And like, just say I didn't play better.
Yeah.
You don't need to say we got outcoached.
That's not for a player to say.
Yes, I hate that. Like, Myles, we don't need cryptic things going into the offseason. Just say, I didn't play well enough. I had 0 sacks again. I didn't play well enough to give my team a chance to win. Outcoached, I don't think Jim Schwartz was on the field to make the tackle on their tight end going down the sidelines.
Right.
I don't think Jim Schwartz was the most elite pass rusher in the game going up against a banged up Tunsil or a backup for a matter of time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, don't blame the coaching.
I want to talk about the defensive numbers real quick while we're kind of harping on this a little bit. We talked about this last week coming into this game. We're like, hey, we're going on the road in the playoffs. This is a big deal because our defense is night and day this year. And I don't understand how our defense can be number one in everything at home. I understand there being a drop off on the road. There is for every team. But to go from 1 to like 32, that something's wrong. So at home, we averaged our rush defense 89.6 yards per game. On the road, 123.4. Passing at home, 149 yards a game, and we'd get 3.6 sacks a game. On the road, 225.6 yards per game, just 2.1 sacks. And that brings the total at home, 239 yards per game. And we would give up just 1.4 touchdowns a game at home on defense. On the road, 350 yards per game, over 110 more yards, and over 3 touchdowns a game.
I mean, there's something to it.
It's
for sure.
Terrible.
There's definitely something to it and something to take into next season. I mean, just for example, some of the games that stand out to me, the Rams game.
Yes.
The Denver game.
Yep.
You brought up the Colts game.
Yep.
Last night. It's just there's something to it. To me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I know home field is important.
Can I go ahead? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to be that guy, but there's a strong correlation between the teams we played at home and the teams we played on the road. And the quarterbacks we played at home and the quarterbacks we played on the road. I don't want to say the defense is fraudulent, but if you look at our home games, Bengals, week 1, Titans, Niners, Cardinals, the Ravens in week 2, and they steamrolled us.
That's true.
Steelers, Jaguars, Bears, and then Jets. Okay, so let's go look at those Bengals. Joe Burrow, one of the better quarterbacks. He's a little banged up, and it rained.
Yep.
So we're helped by the weather. Then we play Kenny Pickett. Well, that was away. But then we play Ryan Tannehill, who,
got benched.
Yep. Then we got steamrolled by a good quarterback at home. And then the next best quarterback we played was Brock Purdy. In the rain.
Yep.
Okay. Don't have to worry about the deep threat. They also lost Debo and CMC. Then we go on the road. We play a good backup quarterback on the Colts, shreds us. Then we go on the road, the Seahawks.
That's right, the Seahawks, yeah.
Okay, and then we get to play the Cardinals at home. Clayton Tune's first ever game.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we played the Ravens. That was an away game. They played pretty well that game, actually. Well, they played well in spots. They still gave up 30 points or whatever. Well, I don't remember how many turnovers we had.
We definitely had a pick 6.
Yep, and then we played the Steelers at home. Who was that against? Was that Rudolph?
No, that was Pickett.
That's Pickett again. And then we play on the road against a Russell Wilson, who, even though he got benched on some stuff, actually had a pretty decent season. Yep. We played against Matthew Stafford on the road and got beat. Then we come home. We play a banged up Trevor Lawrence, who we didn't even know was going to play. And he didn't even play that well this year. We played the Bears against Justin Fields, who is about to probably not be on the team anymore. And then we played Case Keenum on the road, which helped. And then we get to play Trevor Siemian at home. So if you look at the quarterbacks and the teams we played on the road compared to the quarterbacks and teams we played at home, are the easier offenses to play against. That's who we played at home. I think that plays a huge factor in the splits. You played Stafford on the road. You played Russell Wilson on the road. You played Geno Smith on the road.
We played teams that had good run games too, and that was also a big issue this year.
And then at home, you got to play Clayton Tune, Trevor Siemian. Like, there's a big difference.
What's up, Browns fans in Ohio? If you haven't signed up for Caesar Sportsbook yet, now is the perfect time to do so with the NFL playoffs underway. New customers will get their first bet on Caesars up to $1,000 when signing up with our promo code DAWGS1000. That means if your first bet loses, you will get your full wager returned as a bonus bet up to $1,000. Caesars offers daily profit boosts as well as Caesars rewards credits on every wager, which can be redeemed for bonuses, sports tickets, and other VIP experiences. If you're ready to join Caesars Sportsbook, go download the app and register with our promo code DAWGS1000 to make sure your first bet is covered. Offer is only available for new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in Ohio. Please gamble responsibly. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you can qualify.
I think we should talk about Joe Flacco for a second.
Sure.
The guy
I think we
was,
should.
He came in and he was amazing.
Yep.
He was great in the locker room. He was great in front of the camera. He was everything we could have wanted a guy. He was a perfect guy to rally around to make this playoff push and head into the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep.
But there was like crazy talk about how we should be giving him a 2-year deal. And like,
Who said that?
Just people online. There was a lot of it.
Everybody.
A lot of it.
And here's the deal. I tried to bring this up. Even talking to my dad, he was telling me about how Joe Flacco is the best quarterback we've ever had, and all these. And I said, Dad, he's throwing for a lot of yards. But in 2 of those games, he scored 20 or less. This was when he had played 4 games, 20 or less. The guy had 8 or 9 picks in 7 games.
The reason he had to get those yards, especially I always go back to the Bears game. He threw 212 yards in the fourth quarter. Amazing. It was like the most in any quarter by any quarterback this whole season, blah, blah, blah. He freaking had to because he handed the Bears 14 points. He had to.
So he turned he was playing with house money.
Yep.
There was no tape on him in this offense. There was, you know what I mean? He was a complete unknown. And he came in and he balled out and then clock struck midnight and it was
Pumpkin.
It was terrible picks at the worst times. And I felt bad for him because up until that point, he was playing really well in that game, honestly. And again, I'm not going to say a bad word about Joe Flacco in terms of like he isn't the reason he's big reason why we're there. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because and he was a perfect guy to rally around, and I'm going to be forever grateful for him coming in and making this a season worth watching into week 18.
Yeah.
Or 19.
Yeah.
But I think it's clear who the future quarterback is.
It's not even a question. We talked so much leading up to this about all the problems for the Browns and how
pick 6, sorry.
Yeah, I saw that. And how we were overcoming certain things with other, Joe Flacco would throw turnovers, but our defense was really good. Defense was giving up points. Joe Flacco's out there scoring touchdowns. And it was all working out just perfectly for us to win the games. And that's great. That's what you have to do in the NFL. But yesterday was the culmination of everything that we said couldn't go wrong for this team. Defense had to travel on the road. That didn't happen.
Right.
Offense cannot turn the ball over. Most importantly, can't hand them points. We did the opposite of that. Poor officiating. Need to get something on the ground. Nothing worked. We had all of it went against us.
I'll say this about Joe Flacco. Like, for a guy that I would have said over my dead body, I would have never cheered for. You know what I mean? Like, even the idea of it. I remember when they even joked around about it. Like, they're like, we're going to work Joe Flacco out. And I was like, fuck that.
Do you remember the picture of him or somebody snapped a picture of the future Cleveland quarterback on the plane and it was Flacco and he looked like disheveled and very old and like he was just like tired from being on a plane. I was like, this is where we're at.
We watched him with the Jets and the Broncos. It's like, this guy.
So the thing is, though, like he came in a moment where we were like pretty desperate. Obviously we were getting DTR just got knocked out. He was already on the team, but he kind of came in and like reinvigorated the season and gave us hope as Cleveland Browns fans that, maybe this doesn't have to just be, we had a good record and that's the end of the season. Let's look towards next year. But the things that he did the entire time while he was in Cleveland, he always made dangerous throws. He always, you know what I mean? It wasn't like this was like a one-off and it was like, there were some games where he'd throw into triple coverage and
Amari Cooper somehow catch.
Yes. So it wasn't like, like you said, I think finally like as a whole unit, as a whole team, like the magic just kind of ran out. And I don't think it's like anything to be upset about. Like last night, I've seen a bunch of people saying it, and I completely agree with all of them. I was just more bummed than anything.
Yes.
Because I really felt like, and we've all talked, why not Cleveland this year? Like, you know what I mean? We've beaten the 2 teams that everybody is crowning and saying that are untouchable in the AFC and the NFC. Why not us this year? Let's go let's go shock the world. And so it was just unfortunate and just disappointing.
Said it for weeks. I mean, we both were reminding people constantly on social media and stuff. You know, everyone, like you said, give Flacco a 2-year deal, extend him. He needs to be back next year. And we're like, guys, he's turning the ball over a lot. Like, how are we not, like, why is everybody just excusing this?
If Deshaun would have put up the numbers he put up, if you took out Joe Flacco's name and put Deshaun's face on him, people would say he sucked.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just loved that Joe Flacco wasn't Deshaun and that he was throwing for gaudy yards in terms of yards and touchdowns.
And we were winning. That was a big thing with it. You know, whether it wasn't obviously all Joe Flacco, but like that was like a thing where people were like, hey, we're like, this is kind of something special going on here. But I argued with people about that every day for the last over the last 4 weeks. Got to get Flacco back. We got to get rid of Deshaun Watson. That's just like, oh man.
That's like, come on.
I don't want to get into that debate right now with him.
No, we got all off season to handle all that stuff.
No, I'm very appreciative. I just wanted to, yes, I'm very appreciative of what he did for the Browns.
But we saw it for what it was. I feel like
I'd love to buy the guy a beer.
Yeah,
absolutely. Cool guy.
Yep. Very nice guy. And like you said, never in a million years would have thought I'd be rooting for Joe Flacco. Now I'll be a fan forever.
Well, with the Browns.
With the Browns, yes. I'm not going to think about all the times you beat
Jesus,
us.
Please, yeah.
At this point in time, and I'm not going to hold you to it because I'll tell you right now before I tell you my answer, I've already switched my opinion on this in the past week. Do you think the Browns should at least try to sign Joe Flacco to a backup role next year?
I do not, for a couple of reasons. I think that whether if the fan base likes it or not, whether people in the media like it or not, Deshaun Watson is the quarterback. That's just what it's going to be. I think this is his make or break year. This is, Baker Mayfield's 2021 season is Deshaun Watson's 2024 season, where it's like, okay, we need to see consistency. We need to figure out what you are, because if you're not what we think you are, we got to start looking elsewhere. That's just what it is. Deshaun Watson has played in 12 games in 2 years, and the first year was obviously due to suspension, but that's a problem. And to me, I don't want to go into this season with this giant number 15 Super Bowl MVP behind the guy who's supposed to be your starter, because how the media is. It's going to be Deshaun struggles. Hey, Flacco. When's Flacco coming in? And for me, I think it's more beneficial to just not have him there. And that's not Joe Flacco's. That's not Deshaun Watson's fault. I just think it would be better to not have that situation. And also DTR. DTR, I feel like, showed some signs of promise when he did play. Obviously, there was a lot of mistakes, but that kid's got talent, and you just got to trust and believe that he can develop, which I think he can, and I think he will be fine as the backup quarterback. So I wouldn't be willing to spend the money it would take to keep Flacco, and just because, I don't necessarily think we need it, which is tough to say after we just went through 5. But I think it's just more of a distraction than, beneficial, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, and I agree with everything you just said, because that was my viewpoint originally, was we can't go down that path. Initially I was like you, Joe, thank you for coming in, saving our season, salvaging whatever scraps we had left and getting us to the playoffs. But we kind of all know what this is. It's like a one-night stand kind of thing. Like, we know what this is. And, the last few days I've been thinking about it. And, of course, this might change again. But at the moment, I've kind of flipped my stance on that, because, like you, I was very concerned that it's the second, the ink meets the paper with Joe Flacco and the Browns, half the fan base, anybody who doesn't like Deshaun Watson is going to say, we need Flacco. Flacco needs to be the starter, and they're going to be calling for him. And I thought we just need to avoid that at all costs, kind of like you said. And then I realized that, well, they were doing that with DTR in the preseason last year. And even if DTR is the backup entering next year, they're going to do it with him anyway. They're going to say, DTR should probably be the starter. Deshaun sucks. He's trash. He's no good. I mean, I hear it all. So it doesn't really matter. The more I thought about it, like, whoever we sign to be the backup, whoever is the backup, that person's going to get called for by that portion of the fan base. Now, I understand what you're saying about the media and everything, and that's a whole nother issue. But, as long as Joe Flacco would understand that he's in a backup role and that that's what he wants. He wants to sign here because, like you said, Deshaun Watson's the starter. Like, no questions, no debate. Whether you like him, hate him, whatever, he is the starter. So if Joe Flacco signs, he's like, yeah, I'm cool with being the backup. That's what I want to do. He signs that kind of a deal and it works out financially and everything. Internally, I don't see a problem. These guys are professionals. I think Deshaun Watson is a different mentality kind of quarterback than a guy like Baker Mayfield, who would probably take that as a slight on him. And I think Joe Flacco is a good enough, a mature professional quarterback who understands this is my role. This is what I'm going to do. And internally, I don't see a problem. So God forbid anything would happen to Deshaun again. At least we know the guy coming in after him is Joe Flacco and not, insert below average journeyman shit show name here, because there's so many of those floating around. And even if it was DTR, like Joe Flacco's shown that he can step in and carry the offense in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. So there would be that sense of security going into the season. So I don't know. That's sort of where I'm at now is the fans that don't want Deshaun are going to want whoever's back there. So
yeah,
if we ever get to the point where we need a backup, man.
Yeah.
But
here's the last thing I'll say on it. I'm not sure we're even going to have the option, because I think Joe Flacco might just be like, hey, one last run. That's what he did. And it just so happened that it ended in the first round of the post. But you look at where Flacco's been the last few years, hasn't done anything of worth at all.
Right.
Like the Jets, I want to see, he was on the Broncos, and like it just nothing. Like his career since leaving Baltimore has been little to nothing. And at his age, like a story has been written many times. He was sitting on his couch, got the call to Cleveland, practice squad, and then took us to the playoffs. Like that is the story. But, for Flacco, would you rather just go out like this? Would you rather just go out taking a team that was decimated with injuries, a team that used to be your division rival, to the playoffs? Or would you come back for a year, sit the bench, whether for week or somewhere else? Like, why wouldn't Joe Flacco just be done? If I'm Joe Flacco and I have my Super Bowl, I have Super Bowl MVP, I have, one last ride going to the playoffs and kind of showing, hey, yes, I am a good quarterback. Personally, I'm done. Like, I would just be like, I'm out, thankful for the opportunity.
He's 39. He just turned 39 the other day. So he's no spring chicken. I forget, there was a graphic I saw on, I think it was during the game, and it was quarterbacks age 38 and older that are actually still in the NFL. And I think it was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. If I'm Flacco, I'm done. Like, I hate to say that, but I just think at this point, it's a non-story as much as I hate to say it. Like, it's obviously a story because of what he did for us, but at the same time, for him, is he planning on spending another 3 years in the NFL? But not. He got the taste of being at home with his family. Can't imagine that he would want to, push that back to go play third string, second string for the Buccaneers. Like that, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You're right. And you're talking, training camp and preseason, and it's a long grind for these NFL players, and their bodies aren't the only thing that limit them from being able to do it past a certain age. When you're a young man in your 20s, that kind of lifestyle works. Not just take the body thing out of it. Like that kind of lifestyle works. But when you're older and you have a family, and then you throw on top, my body can't really take this grueling beating all the time. It's pretty easy to say, I think I'm good. Mm-hmm. So I think you're right. I wouldn't be surprised to see that he's hanging it up. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back and say, I wanted to see if I can get a starting job. Like, he's a competitor. We saw with Tom Brady, some guys are just built different. So whatever happens to Joe Flacco, I'm not going to be like, I didn't see that coming. I think I could see all these paths playing out for him. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Browns fans, we've had some time now to come down off of that playoff loss. It's still super disappointing, but it was still an incredible season, and now we're heading into 2024, into the offseason, ready to refocus our sights on the ultimate goal. And as 2024 continues to unfold for you, now is the perfect time to refocus on yourself, and that includes your mental health. Yes, I know there is still some stigma in society around mental health, but that is all nonsense. Your health, whether it's mind, body, or spiritual, is the most important thing. And that's where today's sponsor, BetterHelp, the most convenient talk therapy service, can benefit you. It's 100% online and 100% on your time. Schedule whatever kind of session you're comfortable with. Face chat, voice call, or even text messaging. You can do any of those with your therapist whenever it fits your schedule. And you don't have to worry about not getting paired with the best therapist for you. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. There is no reason not to at least give BetterHelp a try today. And to help get you started, you can save 10% off your first month at BetterHelp, HELP.com/Dawgs, DAWGS. Consider this a trial period to see if talk therapy is even right for you. If it's not, just cancel. But if it is, guys, it could change your life. What do you have to lose? Your mental health is critical. And if you've been considering talking to someone about anything in your life, no matter how big or how small it may seem, now is the time to take that first step. Head to betterhelp.com/Dawgs to get 10% off your first month. Let's talk about your reaction to seeing the news that, offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt has been let go by the Browns, and Stump Mitchell and the tight end coach T.C. McCartney.
It's kind of surprising, right? I guess there's parts of it. Like with Stump Mitchell, I'm very surprised. He's a guy that's kind of regarded in the league as like, he's the running back whisperer. By all regards, he's like one of the best running back coaches that a team can get. It stinks because we've met him personally. Super nice guy, super humble guy, great guy. I wish him nothing but the best. Just a great guy. Can't say enough about him. But I was surprised about that. Like when you sit back and reflect on the season, you go, you lose your best running back week 2. You lose your all-star guy, your all-pro. He's gone at the beginning of the season. And then, you're left with Jerome Ford, and we bring in Kareem Hunt and trade for Pierre Strong. I guess in some regards, some of it, I guess I can put 2 and 2 together. I feel like Ford kind of struggled to develop as, maybe as vision. That's something we questioned all year. We said, he's having trouble. My biggest thing when I watch Jerome Ford is I'm like, man, I think he's great. It's like he just never makes the cut. I feel like he's always running horizontally along the line, and he just never makes the cut or shoots for the gap. In space, he's insane. The kid is electric when you get him out in space. That's why I love him running routes.
Right.
If he could be like our Duke Johnson from years and years ago. If you're a newer Browns fan, you probably don't know this man, but Duke Johnson, he was third down. You knew what you were going to get. He was going to catch a little slant and cut him loose. But
true.
So that part, I guess there's things that, I understand with it, but at the same sense, I go, what do you expect? What do you want the guy to do? You're down your best player. So I understand that one. Alex Van Pelt, this is me. I'm not linked in with the Browns organization, but for years now, I've been going, so what exactly does Alex Van Pelt do? I know, you read about him and people are like, he's this young offensive mind and he's great. But to me, I'm like, well, he's not calling plays, I guess he did scheme for a bunch of different quarterbacks this year and different injuries and stuff like that. So whether that's him or coach, we don't know that. Honestly, as fans, it's hard to tell what's coach, what's AVP, what's his role. If I don't know what this means moving forward for Kevin Stefanski, is this saying, hey, maybe this is a changing of guard? Maybe he gives up play calling. Maybe we bring in a young defensive. Look what's going on in Detroit and some of these other teams where you have, even a Shane Steichen last year with, the Eagles. You get these young coaches in and they get it cooking, and you see what they're doing now. So maybe this is an opportunity to bring in a young guy. I haven't really looked at, some of the names that are getting tossed around with Cleveland yet as far as who could be coming in or not. But that's the way I see it. Tight end coach, another like kind of surprising thing for me. You look at like David Njoku's growth, from beginning to the end. He's always been a great blocker. We've always, thought, man, this guy, I think he's one of the best, blocking tight ends in the league. And then, he really kind of came alive, the last, I would say, 6 weeks. His drops have, been better. I know you'll still hear fans say, that his drops are terrible, but I was surprised. I honestly was surprised. I don't know. Maybe there's something coming here that we don't know about. Maybe it's just very surprising. I felt like for a team that survived all these injuries and overcame all these different things and was able to still overcome and get to 11 wins. And it wasn't like the offense was not a part of it. I mean, the team, we always like to say the strength was the defense, but there's a lot of games where the offense had to handle business, at least make a drive to set, DP up, or I'm sorry, Hopkins up for a game-winning field goal or go-ahead field goal. So it's just, it was kind of surprising news I didn't expect to hear today. I felt like this was the kind of thing I would hear 5 years ago, like, hey, we're shaking things up and we're going to start it over kind of again as far as the coaching staff. So I don't know how you guys felt. I haven't gotten to listen to you and DF's complete views on it, but it was kind of surprising on my end.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying too. And one thing that I did say when I was talking to Derek was, I think that there's so much trauma as Browns fans. As soon as you see the team making any sort of coaching moves, you just kind of revert back to that, like repressed, oh my gosh, we're tearing it down to the studs, we're rebuilding, starting over.
We're stepping back. Yep, exactly.
And, these are position coaches. The where it really matters, where you need consistency with your team, the front office and the head coach, everything's still in place. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's all still there. We've been talking for years now, and especially this year, how the offense has just gotten kind of mundane. It's just kind of boring, a little bit predictable, stale. Yeah. And I think that this is a good move. For me anyway, this signals like positive news for me. I'm like, cool. The Browns just got, beat in the playoffs, and they look at this season saying, okay, we're ready to build off of this. Let's make some very necessary moves to get better and get back to the playoffs next year. They don't want to just stay the same. And so anything they can do to improve. And I think, we talked about how Kevin, I still think he should be coach of the year. I mean, he's an incredible head coach. But to get like a young offensive genius, specialist kind of consultant type guy in here, he doesn't even have to be the OC. Or he could be the OC, but just do what Van Pelt did. We just need fresh schemes and game plans and ideas and all that kind of stuff in that room.
Something that crossed my mind also is, the last, I would say, year and a half, we've kind of been at this thing where we're like, does Kevin's offense really mesh well with Deshaun Watson? Is this an opportunity to maybe bring in a guy that will take Deshaun Watson's strengths and run with it? That's one thing I've been so surprised about, that at least they couldn't even meet in the middle, it seemed like, from the outside. This is just a fan's perspective. From the outside, I felt like it was just two different styles and we could never get on the same page. And then you see Flacco come in and it was almost like this perfect marriage with, Stefanski as far as like timing and everything, like timing-based offense. So is this, to me, I look at it as maybe this is an opportunity to bring in a guy that will look at what Watson does best and go, okay, well, hey, this is what was successful for you in Houston. Let's take all the strengths out of this and run with it and see what we can do.
Do you remember when me and Blake did the episode with Jake Burns back during the bye week?
Yes.
So he had we asked him all these questions about the offense and Kevin and everything, and he said what the problem is Kevin is running a more antiquated offense. Yeah, it's outdated. Okay. So it was really popular, or I shouldn't say popular, like it was new a while ago. And when it first came in and, the offensive minds were adapting to it and implementing it, it was working well. And the things that it was designed to do well could exploit defenses because they didn't know how to stop it. But now years and years and years later, defenses have caught up to it. They've adjusted. They've adapted. And now, in order for the things that this offense does well, in order for that to happen, like you have to execute it almost flawlessly. You really, really do. And we saw it this year with poor execution. It doesn't work. And I think you said that and just kind of hit me in the head that, I don't know what kind of offense Deshaun Watson is used to running through Clemson and then Houston, but he's a younger quarterback still. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's been thrown into the NFL and into the pros, probably in a more updated system, a more updated style, where Kevin's running this older style offense, and look who stepped in and executed it well. An older quarterback who probably has experience over years and years and years with these types of schemes and philosophies. So that might also be a reason why Joe Flacco was able to step in and just take it and go.
Right.
You know, I hadn't really thought about that before.
That was just that was something that crossed my mind while I'm reading the news this morning, and I'm going, man, it's just a little confusing. But I mean, the opportunity, the idea is great. Now, like, what you're going to see over the next few days is outside Cleveland Browns fans, anti-Cleveland Browns fans, and even like that 50% of Cleveland Browns fans that just don't like the Browns. I don't know what your guys' deal is, but you're going to see, oh, this is typical Browns being the Browns, burn it down when there's nothing to burn. So for me, I'm trying to take the positives out of this, and I'm trying to see what there's always a long-term goal, right? It's not like they woke up today and they just called these guys in. They're like, hey, we're moving forward. I'm guessing that this is something that's been talked about pre-playoffs. You know, this obviously, I never would have thought Stump was even like hot seat material. I just figured, hey, you know, next year you get Chubb back and you're good to go. But
yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it more like if they're bringing in a new offensive-minded guy with different, like a new OC. He's probably going to want
bringing his own guys.
Probably going to bring in his own positional guys. So this just makes. I don't necessarily think it's an indictment on Stump's performance as a coach. I just think it's like, hey man, sorry, like we're going to roll the new team in here, and I don't know. What I've seen from the Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski era is they never get complacent. They never get content. Every year they're always looking to make moves to improve, and that's just how I view this. I see it as, okay, this isn't working anymore with AVP. And I did just see actually that the reports came out that they tried to work a deal with AVP, like they just wanted to reassign him to a different role.
Right.
They're like, are you open to that? And essentially they just couldn't agree, and he decided it just wasn't for him. He wanted to move on. I think he wants to be an OC, so good for him.
I mean, I get that. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to take a demotion at work. Then, you know, I get, especially there's going to be some positions open. I mean, who knows he might stay in division, you know, like Bengals offensive coordinators interviewing for the Tennessee job. Pittsburgh, I think they're still trying to figure out their offense, you know, as far as what they want to be identity-wise and like what they want to do. So I wouldn't, it's not like there's not jobs available. I mean, there's jobs available probably in the AFC North. So makes sense. I get it.
Yep, for sure. So, you know, all in all, I think I don't see any reason to freak out about it or think that this is the sky is falling. I honestly,
surprising. It was surprising.
Surprising. I wasn't, but again,
wasn't what I expected this morning. But you know,
good for them. You know, if they have a plan of attack and they want to execute it and get things rolling for 24, start now. Don't wait around and beat around the bush. Let's get this thing moving. We got stuff to do.
Agreed.
This episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, if you missed out on the 50% site-wide sale at Omaha Steaks, guys, what were you thinking? Come on, the deal of a lifetime just slipped you by. All kidding aside, luckily for all the listeners of this show, for a limited time, you can now go to omahasteaks.com/dogs, DAWGS, and you'll receive 4 free air-chilled boneless chicken breasts and 4 free, rich, juicy boneless pork chops with your order. So now's the perfect time to go load up for the winter with Omaha's selection of steaks, including butcher's cut filet mignons, bacon wrap filet mignons, the top sirloin steaks, which are my favorite, but man, I gotta tell you guys, those bacon wrap fillets, those are something else. Throw in some Omaha steak burgers, jumbo franks, seafood, ready-to-eat meals, desserts, whatever you want. Just make sure you go to omahasteaks.com/dogs so you can get those 8 additional free items added to your order. The 4 boneless chicken breasts and the 4 pork chops. Believe me, I've tried them all. I've got the chicken and pork chops in my freezer right now. The pork chops are actually reserved for my solo dinners because my fiance doesn't eat pork. So, when she's working, it's pork chop time for Josh. And they're so juicy and tender, they practically fall apart. I seriously don't know how long this offer is going to be available because Omaha said it won't last long, but just go to omahasteaks.com/dogs, DAWGS, and score those 8 free additional items with your order. Minimum purchase may apply. The very last game of the weekend, which we'll talk about, the Philadelphia Eagles, sorry, Devontae, went to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers and got their asses handed to them on whatever kind of platter you want to call it. I don't care. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for the Eagles, man. This is a team that, partway through the season, you look at the teams in the NFL and you just kind of project ahead and you say, okay, I think top teams right now, 49ers, Ravens,
Philly,
Cowboys, Eagles. And Eagles might go in between, any of those. They could have been one.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It was, they didn't have A.J. Brown. Defense hasn't been that great this season. But overall, the whole team just looked like garbage.
What happened? Like, to me, that's like one of the... So I wasn't as shocked by this game because everything led up to this. If you read the tea leaves, it was like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
They've been extremely dysfunctional. They started 10-1 and lost 7 of the last 8.
I think so.
It was something along those lines. It was that bad of a losing streak.
6 maybe because they were 11.
It was at 6. Okay, yeah. So just very, very surprising. Like for a team that looked dominant at the beginning, and looked like they were just going to be running right back to the Super Bowl, depending on what happened with the Niners, like run it back in the NFC Championship. Super surprising. And then it just seems like such a dysfunctional locker room right now. And like, I don't follow the Eagles. I've got a couple friends that are Eagles fans, but like just some of the noise that's coming out where you have player only meetings and, like AJ Brown's taking all of his stuff off of his social media that's Eagles related. Jalen Hurts is rolling in there with like a swan finger. Like it couldn't, all the things fell apart all at the right time. Their defense, which was historically good last year, they had, I want to say, second most sacks in NFL history for a season, something crazy like that. They were historically bad. They got gashed up and down the field. We talked about, I want to say it was Blake. He was like, the Giants just walked up and down the field on them in that week 17 game where, and we were just it was so surprising. Now for Tampa Bay, credit to them. They look great. I watched a good portion of that game. Good for Baker. You know what I mean? Like he came in, he performed. He missed some throws. He made some throws. He's got there's some nice pieces on that team. Mike Evans just continues to do Mike Evans stuff, and he's underrated receiver for what he does. But and then they just came in, punched him in the mouth. It was at home, and that was it. But Eagles fans, maybe I'm confused. What's going on with your team? you on paper, you guys have one of the best rosters in the NFL. For sure, one of the best offensive lines, going into this. That's a great offensive line. The weapons, you have one of the best receivers. You have one of the best young receivers. Another like top 10, top 15 guy, easy in Devontae Smith. A great running back, a top 10 tight end. Like I don't understand what happened. And then there's all these good young pieces on defense mixed with veterans that are good. So it's so surprising. I don't know if the loss of Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon going to two different, head coaching spots in Colts and Cardinals respectively. Maybe Nick Sirianni isn't as great as we thought he was, because last year everybody crowned him. And man, that was crazy.
It kind of ties into what you're seeing Cleveland doing, getting rid of Alex Van Pelt and trying to upgrade that OC position. Your head coach can do a lot. We saw that this year with the Browns. Yeah. Kevin Stefanski really rallying the troops and encouraging and leading this team through the season to the playoffs. But you really do need a strong supporting crew beneath you. And you're right. It's not like the Eagles last year said, well, things aren't working so well on offense. We need to let Steichen go, or defense isn't going so well. We need to let Gannon go. Those guys both got hired away.
Right.
So they lost them unwillingly. And I think Blake said it many times this year that losing those guys seems to really be impacting this team.
For sure. Big time. Yeah. Offensively, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like Indianapolis looked pretty damn good this year. They, for a team that was fringe playoffs they lost their young starting quarterback prospect who he looked pretty damn good. he was more of a runner than anything, from what we saw, but he looked all right. He looked like they've got something okay there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that one was very, very surprising to me. I figured, I saw it happening like leading up to the game, and I thought like that was the smart pick, was to go Tampa Bay, because it just felt like there was just so much noise and extra stuff coming into that week for them. But I was just like, man, they're very talented. Like I'd be surprised if it actually went down, and then they got drubbed. Like to me, it wasn't close. Like I felt like Tampa Bay kind of got ahead, and like it never really was close after that.
No, it was a blowout. So
yeah.
Well,
we weren't the only ones, apparently.
No, actually, like I said, there was really only one close game. Everything else was pretty well decided by the winning team.
Yeah.
So this weekend, this is Divisional Round Saturday at 4:30. You've got the Texans, C.J. Stroud and the Texans heading to Baltimore to face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. That one, like I said, 4:30. And then the night game on Saturday, 8:15, the Packers that just stunned the Cowboys and that awesome Cowboys defense are going into 49ers in San Francisco. Can they do it again? Can they go on the road again into another dominant defense? And I mean, the 49ers have a great offense too. So
yeah,
it's a similar story.
They're pretty well rounded. They're well rounded for sure. I would be very surprised if Green Bay pulled it off again. I just feel like 49ers just kind of different. They've got elite players in all aspects of their game. They're a tough physical team, and they have been for a while. We've seen if you can get some pressure on Brock Purdy, he kind of becomes a little more human and not MVP Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see that one. I think that, maybe it's close. I think the line right now is like 9.5, 10.5 or something like that. It's pretty
9.
It's pretty surprising. Yeah. So, I just picking, if I had to pick a team, I would say San Francisco. I don't think it'll be like a huge blowout. I think Green Bay can stick around with them for a little bit, but I'd be very surprised if they upset San Francisco. Man, they might be a dark horse. I mean, they're already
legit shot.
They're already at there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the lines this week. So Houston, Baltimore, the line is 9. Packers, 49ers, 9. The Buccaneers now are traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. That one's at 6.5. And then the Chiefs and Bills is the 3-point spread. So that one's a close game, which I think it will be. I think that one's going to be exciting.
For sure.
Of course, that's the cap of the weekend. That's the bell of the ball, 6:30 p.m.
Smart.
Sunday night.
Smart.
Oh, of course, it's smart. Yeah, the NFL, they know how to make their money.
Yeah.
Sunday at 3 is the afternoon game is Buccaneers Lions. So you think Baker goes in with the Bucs and takes care of the Lions? Is he moving on to the NFC Championship?
No hay here. I don't think so. I don't. I think that Detroit. They're for real. Is going to do it again. And I could be wrong. I'm going way back in memory here. I believe they played like week 5 or 6, and I want to say that Detroit won that game pretty soundly.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong here and messing it up, mixing things up. But so to me, I think it's going to be Detroit in the NFC Championship game. And I don't think it's going to be necessarily on Baker. Like he's going to go out there and throw like 2 or 3 interceptions. I just think that like Detroit's just,
they're a better team.
Exactly. I'm not hating or anything like that. I'm not being anti-Baker bro stuff here. I just think that Detroit is a very good team and they're very well rounded. And that's the team that I think comes out on top.
I mean, to speak to Baker, I mean, they're not the Tampa Bay Bakerneers. They are the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Right. The line, he doesn't play defense. The Buccaneers still had to go out and play defense against the Eagles, shut them down and everything. Now, take nothing away. Baker had a very good game. He played very well in that game, led them to that victory. But football is a team sport, and the Buccaneers this year have been so up and down. They look good one game, and then they look like garbage another. The Lions just look pretty sound all around pretty much all the time. They're very consistent, of course, nobody's undefeated in the NFL, but
Right.
as far as consistency goes, I think the Lions have that. They're just, like you said, well-rounded.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be good. So the last one, really, I mean, you think the Texans go in and beat the Ravens? Because I got to tell you what, Ravens fans are just about as dumb as Steeler fans because they're talking a lot of trash to Browns fans. And it's like, you guys do realize now you have to play them. Why don't you just wait till the game is over and then you can talk your shit? You know what I mean? Because now if you lose, you got to block us because we're coming after you.
So they played week 1, if I'm not wrong, if I'm correct here, 25-9 or 7 or something like that. It was CJ Stroud's first game. I want to say the like Baltimore starters are coming off of like weeks of rest, right? 2-3 weeks, something like that, because they've had the bye week now. They rested their starters week 18. So to me, I don't think they're going to be rusty. I think that they're very physical. When we talk about like well-rounded, they're going to be fine, I think. I'm curious though in this game because would it surprise me if Stroud came out and like went off? Not really. Like, I feel like that's just kind of his thing right now. Like, and I think the more you disrespect him and that team, the more chippy they get. But that's a tall ask to go into Baltimore, into that stadium. And say what you want, Baltimore is a top notch. They're one of the elite teams in the NFL this year. Lamar is playing really, really well. I think Baltimore wins this game, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Baltimore wins.
Both of these teams they're not the same. Neither of them are the same that faced the other one in week 1. These teams have both improved significantly through the year. I mean, the Ravens' new offense and everything took a long time to really get going, but it has. And, with Houston, we know what that story is all about. I mean, CJ Stroud has just evolved into this superstar already, and he doesn't turn the ball over. So, yeah, I think this will be a lot closer game than Ravens fans are willing to admit out loud, at least. But there's going to be some good football this week, and I'm pretty excited.
I agree. And who do you, I guess they top it off real quick. Who do you got? Kansas City, Buffalo?
I just got to take Kansas City.
I'm going to go Buffalo.
Okay.
I think Patrick Mahomes, is 2-0, I think, against Josh Allen in the playoffs. I think that
Allen's due.
I think it's finally going to Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think it's finally Buffalo's turn to host. But I expect that to be an excellent game. It's, as advertised, I would hope, because the last few times that those guys have met up, legendary classic playoff games. The one where they went 13 seconds and down the field.
Yeah.
Was that 2 years ago?
I think so.
That was like one of the craziest games I've ever watched. And thought it was over multiple times for both teams. Like, and Kansas City ended up winning the Super Bowl, I believe. Or was that the year they won against Tampa Bay? I can't remember now. My years are all mixed up. But I want to say they went on the win Super Bowl that year, but I could be wrong.
No, I don't think they did, but
is that the year they ran into Tom?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
I don't know. My years are all mixed up too. I always get screwed, especially when these teams make it every year.
Right. But I'd like to see Josh Allen go, at least have a shot at it, and then set up for. I mean, regardless, the final matchups in the conference championships are going to be excellent.
Yes,
a lot of good teams left.
Yep, a lot of good teams, a lot of good games. So.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.